#1 performer from last year, bringing the deck that many can see here. And with 2 copies of Ironbeak Owl, it means they're going to deal with Chef Nomi.
Why don't we have both?
And so we are in game now. Hunterace, not going to be on coin for this one. Rogue is, of course, a deck that really thrives on having combo activators. So not only the additional card, but also the combo activator, pretty key to that deck.
I agree it's important. It's not quite so obvious, I would say, as with Mage, where it's just a giant, it's straight up a turn later if you're on the play rather than on the coin. Because you can do some good things going first, and typically in Hearthstone, going first has been slightly stronger throughout its history, although I would agree that the coin, when you have an Edwin in hand, obviously looks pretty juicy. One thing that we haven't even talked about, which often for me I forget, is that both these players are on the same team.
That's right.
Nordavind being a Norwegian team, I kind of associate it with the Norwegian players on the team, like obviously Hunterace, Zorkdar, NTR as well. But Jarla, one of the key members, I would argue, of that team, racking up a huge amount of points for them in the team standings last year.
Yeah, not a surprise to see them be such strong performers. When you're on teams like this, you often form pretty tight practice circles, and sometimes that information is concealed. Sometimes you're sharing it with other practice groups to just try to get ideas and really refine and hone in. But this is a collection of some of the strongest players in the world. They had a great performance on the HGG stage with Hunterace and the Norwegian team. And honestly, kind of talking about that for a second, as this opening turns are a little bit slow. I felt like the main downfall of them at the Hearthstone Global Games for the Norwegian team was that there were so many collective good minds that they kept coming up with new situations, and they couldn't actually just settle on one final play. There were just too many ideas and variables floating around.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. As a squad, they were very, very strong personalities and all so clever that they heads were bashing into each other a lot.
Very succinct.
Yes.
In terms of being good at the game. Not succinct in terms of finalizing one idea.
Succinct at being good at the game.
Yeah, they were all really in tune with being very good at it.
Oh, right, okay.
It's a terrible way to use the language. And
yeah,
that's exactly what I was trying to do.
I don't think that means what you think it means at all.
If only you had long hair and a mustache, it would just look right, you saying that.
Yeah. I watched that with my girlfriend for the first time the other day. I hadn't seen it before.
Really?
Had to remedy that ASAP.
Did she enjoy it?
She loved it. Everyone does.
Good.
She's a keeper.
Double Acolyte for Jarla.
Not working out perfectly, obviously, in the face of a Dread Corsair coming down before the Waggle pick even.
Yeah.
And he had to have anticipated this, because just a 3-3 coming down on 3 was either Dread Corsair or SI7 Agent. Either one very, very likely to have happened.
Also have to account for the Deadly Poison. That's
yes, good point.
Deck. Although Jarla, I think, is welcoming of a turn 3 Deadly Poison pass after it attacks an Acolyte Pain.
I think
this turn, however, Hunterace getting some beats going. Pretty weak hand overall for Hunterace, I'd say, though. Double Shadow Step, double SI7 Agent. No way to actually generate gas here.
And this is interesting from Jarla already, because I guess the kind of the unsaid thing I was thinking about in this situation is he had Warpath in hand, which can be used, obviously, to get multiple cards drawn off an Acolyte of Pain. Is that something that you should be trying to do in this matchup, or is it kind of a trap when you want to save the Warpaths to remove opponents' minions?
As with most things in Hearthstone, I think it depends. And for me, in an aggressive matchup, I tend to use Acolyte of Pain as like bootleg shield block, where I'm just trying to draw an extra card to dig for key cards, and in the meantime, absorb some life while I'm doing that. And I think Acolyte of Pain does a great job, because your opponent often fears what you're capable of when you have an Acolyte of Pain in play that goes unchecked.
And I think, especially when you're up against Hunterace's primary deck, against which you probably don't need too much card draw, because you're not going into the super late game. You just need enough removal to see the few threats that they have, and then you should be good from there.
Oh, the hand from Hunterace is not improving. But I'm looking at Hunterace's deck right now. Evil Miscreant, big pickup. Raiding Party, big pickup. Myra's Unstable Element, big pickup. And at this point, even Leroy, I think, is a big pickup, because you have 2 Shadow Steps in hand. So I think that the draws that Hunterace has that are good are extremely good. And I think the draws he has that are not so good are quite mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the nature of the beast with Rogue, I think. As a deck, when you run this many zero-cost spells, this many what were you calling them when we were talking about rogue spells the other day? Not support cards, but
Enablers?
Enablers. There's a specific word you used. I'm drawing a blank on it at the moment. But cards.
I wish I knew.
Yeah. Just support cards, that don't actually really win the game. Utility cards, that's the word I was thinking of. They definitely don't win the game in their own right, but they really help you do all those little tricks that makes Rogue so powerful. But when you don't have the combo cards to go with them, it just looks absolutely miserable. And it's not even like in his deck he has Chef Nomi, with which Shadow Step is obviously unbelievably powerful, or Heist Baron Togwaggle, with which Shadow Step is unbelievably powerful. He's got Deckhand, with which Shadow Step is not unbelievably powerful. It's believably powerful.
I don't even know if powerful is the right word.
It's unbelievably sucky.
Sometimes it's okay.
The Derek special. Sometimes it's
okay. Well, okay, now everything's changed. Hunterace's hand now officially looks good, and I'm worried for Jarla.
And this is actually a really big deal, because I was saying, when you said Leroy was a decent top deck, when you said Leroy was decent, Jarla still had Ziliax in hand, against which you're probably not going to get there when they have Ziliax. If you're just launching Leroy's at the face every turn, they put that in your way, and it's just kind of over. Ziliax is gone. No more taunts left in hand for Jarla. He's just going to have to be relying on Armageddon to get it done against those Leroys, which doesn't always get there. It's a lot of burst.
So let's take a look at the next couple turns here. I think Jarla's probably going to be on either a Militia Commander and Armor Up, which I think is weaker than a Triple Warpath. If he goes for Triple Warpath, he's facing down 18 plus 3 over the next 3 turns. So that's 21 damage. 2 hero powers gets him out of range of that.
Yep.
And Dr. Boom gets him out of range of that as well. And so Hunterace needs to find a little bit more damage to chip away here and try to keep Jarla occupied. If Jarla gets a couple turns to survive or draws a couple of running shield blocks, Hunterace is going to need a lot of gas to get this done. And that is the opposite of a lot of gas. That is a 0-cost card that currently does nothing.
Literally does nothing. Okay, so if he picks up Myra's Unstable Element, however, which is always the key in these miserable situations for Rogue, that's when things obviously start to stick around.
Also still thinking Evil Miscreant is a great pickup for Hunterace right now. I think Life Drinkers are okay right now, and I think Waggle Pick is still a welcome sight. But Hunterace is going to be fighting an uphill battle, because as you Shadow Step your own Leroys and add whelps to your opponent's board, that chip damage really adds up fast. It seems like it doesn't, but players fight the whole game to get an extra minion on board.
And so what do we got here? We have quote-unquote lethal next turn for Hunterace. Obviously that never comes to fruition unless he gets a little bit of extra juice.
At this rate?
That's what I'm thinking. So if Jarla does not play Dr. Boom or Weapons Project or Shield Block, which he obviously would every time.
This is an interesting spot now. For Jarla, I'm actually curious. God, I'm going to sound crazy again. If you Shield Block and Armor Up in this spot, you get 7 armor immediately, you get to Hero Power again, and then you get to play the Dr. Boom. I think it's the fear of what happens if Hunterace just has the perfect combination of cards and you don't get that armor. But now his passive armor gain is gone.
Yeah, so this time, the non-Dr. Boom play, I can fully see your point. This one I actually understand, and I think there's a lot of merit to not going for it. I still think I would have gone for this line of play, because
I mean, he did it awfully quick, though. Jarla was so considerate of every turn, right up until that point, where it was like almost a reflex for him to simply play it.
You still have to be somewhat afraid of them sticking a board. Actually, no, you don't have to be afraid of them sticking a board.
Not at all. Your hand is great. But it's not great if you can't sustain your life total. The Ziliax is gone, and all you have now is a shield block and hope to roll 7 armor from Dr. Boom. I think this Dr. Boom was a mistake. You don't need rush on your minions. You don't need extra value. You need extra health.
I'm starting to believe you, and I hate it. This shouldn't be happening. Obviously, this is cast division getting to us, right? Like, the fact that it was...
What else is Hunterace's hand? He didn't play anything for like 90 turns.
Well, no, okay, sorry. So you do have to be afraid of board control if they hit Myra's. That's what you need to be afraid of, right? Is if they hit exactly Myra's. And if they hit that, you need powerful removal to be able to fight back against it. The
other thing for Jarla, here's where I'll give him a benefit of playing the Dr. Boom. number one, it does give him a chance to find mechs that can outright end the game.
Yeah.
Aziliax here, I think, can outright end the game for Jarla.
He never beats
Number
Aziliax.
two, it gets Hunterace to commit to the Leroy Jenkins plan, which plays his hand face up and gives you information of exactly what you need to do to win the game. So while I still think it was inferior, because I would a lot of times tend to assume that Hunterace's hand was something exactly like what it was. Some amount of burst damage that can't affect the board and can't develop for him. You have a clear image of how to play around that.
But I think even then, you beat that hand. Even if Jarla could see Hunterace's hand, he can figure out the amount of damage his opponent has, even if it's the highest amount of damage possible in Leroy, Abyss, and Shadow Step, which is what it was. He's still in a decent position there because he has the armor gain necessary to survive against that. And therefore, if you can beat that, you should prepare to play around Myra's, which is what Jarla did by playing the Doctor Boom, because it would allow him to fight back against the minions that Myra's would develop.
Long story short, it's a complicated turn.
Yeah. This game is already very complicated from Jarla's side. Hunterace's side, I would say, to be perfectly honest, his hand kind of played itself.
Yes.
For the most part, he had to just launch everything to face. There was no other game plan here. He did it right. It's not a discredit to him. He did everything he needed to do.
But things have fallen apart.
I thought that was Raiding Party, the blue tint on it as it came up this other side.
Nope. Just a spirit of the shark.
I mean, he's not dead, and it's not that bad. If he can get Miscreant next turn...
That's the thing. He still just needs the payoff cards.
Yeah.
Miscreants. Myra's.
Raiding Party's fine. So it's all right. It's pretty good.
I think Wagglepick is an okay draw. You just saw your opponent use a weapons project. There's still some ways that Hunterace gets into this game, but that clock is going to tick down awfully quick. I think Jarla should really be considering just what's the most damage I can put in play.
So is that just a Mega Devastator to just try and close things out?
Let's say you Devastator and Banker. Let's just say that you do that. So that'd be 6 extra.
Oh, no, you don't want a Banker, though, right? Because every card you shuffle in is bad. You want to get through to the shield blocks and weapons project.
Let's just say it's an Owl then.
I would prefer Owl to Baleful Bank.
Same amount of attack. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It'd be 14 damage. So 4 damage on the following turn would win the game. But I don't think Jarla has 4 damage in the immediacy in the deck. So the find, oh boy, it's do or die time.
Oh, that's a draw.
Wait a minute. 4. Wait a minute. Does Hunterace have a chance to win here? Double South Sea Deckhand? So double South Sea Deckhand would have been 4 damage. Wagglepick is 4, that's 8. And then you could bounce one South Sea Deckhand back to hand for 9, 10. He was 1 damage off lethal with the perfect outcome.
He would have had mana for that as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Because he had the prep with the raiding party.
Damn. Has he played one deckhand already so far this year?
So
I don't think
He is not.
Whew, getting very close indeed. And so now we need to think about how he sequences this. We've now obviously seen the weapons project, or one of them at least, from Jarla, the one that we know he has in hand.
I think if you're in Hunterace's spot, you Wagglepick, you Spirit of the Shark, you hit face for 4, and you hope that you draw it next turn.
Is there any downside to playing Spirit of the Shark?
I don't think there is. I think the
Brawl
purely
obviously-
benefit.
If you top deck Myra's next turn, it's
Oh,
another
the
card.
downside would be the Wagglepick activation.
Oh, it could. Yes, yeah, it could bounce back the Spirit of the Shark, right?
Blood and plunder.
But I mean, he knows that there's the 7 armor gain.
Oh!
Jarla next turn. Yeah. Yeah.
That is massive.
However, if Hunterace hadn't... Oh no, sorry, he could have just Warpath to clear up the minions. Yeah, okay.
Okay, then.
I mean, Hunterace is at the mercy of the draws right now. That's the way his hand panned out, and that's exactly what he's played to.
So he's got deck hand in hand. Jarla goes up to 14, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm really struggling to find a way here for Hunterace. It has to be Myra's.
Okay, then.
Myra's with life drinkers.
Yeah, Myra's can get
Eviscerate.
there. Myra's can get there, I think.
I still think Evil Miscreant.
But he has to get it this turn.
Evil Miscreant's still very powerful as well.
He has the Activator, he has the Spirit of the Shark in play, unless we were to see triple Warpath, which obviously stops the Harrison, so you wouldn't go for
I
that.
love that
Yeah.
fuse thing.
Miscreant can do things.
That card is... It's just scary.
We're looking at like 4 of the Ethereal Lackeys, or even just 4 of the Kobold Lackeys. That's a huge amount of damage.
I mean, it's got to be now, though. 4 Kobold Lackeys is 16 damage, by the way. 4 Kobold Lackeys is just lethal.
You are correct.
Because the Spirit of the Shark doubling the damage on
So
them.
Miscreant is potentially just lethal.
Instead, it's Bloodsail Corsair.
Yeah, that's not it.
And that means Jarla is going to take game 1 in kind of scary fashion, honestly. Like, with how many turns Hunterace had, where one critical draw could completely change the landscape. That's why Jarla was playing so aggressively with minions. Tertiary deck. Hunterace adds in 2 copies, a Hench Clan Burglar, a Harrison Jones, a Heist Baron Togwaggle, and a Chef Nomi. He cuts out 2 copies, a Backstab, a Bloodsail Corsair, a Sap, and an SI7 agent. On Jarla's side, Derek, what the heck?
Yeah, this may look like a very weird selection of cards he's put in. He loses, he takes out from the deck Double Banker. Great, those aren't doing anything. Iron Beak Owl, Omega Devastator, and Elysiana. Nothing too devastating. But the added cards, a Spellzerker, an Unseen Saboteur, a Deathwing, in addition to 2 Shield Slams, which, so far as I can tell...
Regular slams, rather.
Sorry, Slams. Yeah, not Shield Slams.
I wish it was called regular slam.
Regular Slam. Ugh. But I think pretty much the Spellzerker and the Deathwing in particular are to deal with Chef Nomi.
So talk about the Spellzerker there real quick. I mean, it looks weird if you don't know what's going on here, which I fortunately do, but it's a strange interaction where I had to watch it the first time.
Yeah, you have to know exactly what it's being put in the deck for. This is not just being played as a 2-mana 2/3. I mean, who knows, maybe Jarla thinks he can get there and not have to worry about the Chef Nomi, but the point of the card in the deck is you wait until you have 10 mana, your opponent plays Chef Nomi for a board full of 6/6 minions. Then you go Spellzerker and Warpath 4 times, damages the Spellzerker, upgrading one of them by 2 spell damage, which basically means you can deal 6 damage to the whole board for 10 mana.
So it's a card dedicated specifically to counter one specific card as a 2-card combo with this one specific card.
It absolutely is.
Very strange, but also very effective.
Yes, I mean, it's strange and it's also imperfect. Like, your hesitance to go to believe in this is very valid. As RDU was saying the other day, Warpath's a good card in this matchup. You want to just play it throughout the course of the game in order to survive. And so saving it right until the end of the game to deal with Chef Nomi is not always something that you have the liberty to do. But that's the reasoning behind it anyway.
The thing about it is, this is a weird saying, and I'm going to end up butchering this phrasing like I usually always do when I explain things. Spellzerker's not a bad card. However, in Warrior, it's a really bad card. Bad cards serve a purpose, and they often serve a very specific purpose. And that's part of the reason the cards are inherently weak cards, is when they serve their intended purpose, they're incredibly strong. It acts as a full board clear to a Chef Nomi, something that Brawl doesn't even technically do. It acts as an effective clear in a lot of situations. Your opponent's still left with a minion. The Spellzerker Warpath serves as a full clear to a full 6 health board all at once. It's crazy how effective that one card is because of a scenario like that.
It is, but like you said, most of the time, it's just bad.
Yeah.
You just don't want to be playing that at all, which is, a learning curve for a lot of budding deck builders in Hearthstone, which is you don't want to put in cards into your deck that are very rarely useful because you've run into it one time.
And honestly, I feel like this lesson applies mostly to control-style decks.
Interesting.
Every card in your deck needs to serve a specific purpose. And if you can't identify a reasonable purpose for it, and that reasonable purpose can be fringe case scenarios, but those fringe case scenarios have to be able to crop up, and they have to be devastating to you when they happen. If every card in your deck does not serve a purpose, think about what replaces it and serves a purpose.
Do you know, I think that applies to an aggressive deck like Rogue as well? Like, it's very streamlined. Everything is doing one thing, which is killing your opponent.
And that's kind of the gist I'm getting at, is, minions typically serve the same purpose. They all attack.
Yeah, fair enough.
For control decks, however, spells, they typically do very specific things.
I see your point. And it's a good one at that, actually.
Miscreant, wonderfully checked by Militia Commander.
Yeah, one of the reasons why it's just so universally run in Warrior at the moment, in addition to just being a good card.
And Town Crier. I love Town Crier.
Hear ye.
Just 1-mana 1/2s. I like them. Like Firefly, I love that card.
I love Firefly.
Firefly is insane right now. Think about it in Rogue.
It was good in Rogue before, but it wasn't. It was cut. It was cut in Miracle Rogue before.
Well, mind you, they now have Evil Miscreant.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, good point. It's close. I mean, people are playing Wisp to be able to play the Miscreant comboed on turn 3.
To my point exactly.
Fair enough.
Hunterace this game, both Evil Miscreants available, and so a much different story.
Blood and plunder.
And as we can see, he has much more liberty to play the minion removal plan. He's very happy, I think, to just keep chipping away the board and make sure he's getting in a little bit of damage every single turn, trying to keep his opponent a reasonable life total. But he knows that if he doesn't get the damage through, that is far from the game being over. He can still rely on Togwaggle, Heist Baron Togwaggle, and the Chef Nomi as well.
I had the liberty at the Grandmasters Summit, as the players were being introduced to everything with the format, to have Hunterace and Kalento stand over my shoulder and absolutely berate my rogue play. As instead of fighting for board against Warrior, I went face.
Right.
And Kalento looks at my game and he shakes his head and he says, "You have to get board control." Excuse me, he goes, "You have to get the board control." And I ignored him, and I lost by like 2 damage because of it. And he identified the sequence where I just would have gotten that 2 damage instead by simply fighting for board. And I was like, Kalento, you damned genius.
I imagine that being somewhat upsetting, but at the same time, my Pavel story is far superior. In China, he took my iPad while I was playing Hearthstone, and I kid you not, queued up a game and instantly conceded 7 times and burst out laughing after every single one. He just never got tired of that joke. And I let him do it every time. I was always like, okay, this time he's going to boost me up a rank. Just conceded every single time.
Speak to me.
Hunterace shakes his head. I think it's by the way that this Acolyte is contesting the board. It's just quite weird looking, but I am a little bit curious about it. I mean, Hunterace's hand feels quite strong at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, this is interestingly not even due necessarily to the change in its deck. It's just drawing Miscreant. He just drew the value cards this game, whereas last game it was all 0 mana spells. Just dumped his hand instantly. Which is good. You don't want to be drawing those power cards quite yet. You want to save them for later on for a little bit of extra punch and just do the classic rogue stuff first.
Attrition. Rogue has become, I think, quite a good attrition deck when it draws the right cards, but it's still got that rogue feeling to it. Like, wait, back in 2013, I will never forget that feeling of like 10 games in a row just not being able to find gadgets in Auctioneer and going, I'm really going to just need gadgets in Auctioneer every single time.
Yep. And, it feels similar to that even now. Like you said, it just comes in different ways. It's you're looking for Myra's, Miscreant, and the raiding party instead of your Auctioneer.
Well, we're seeing the downside of numerous tech choices dedicated for the endgame now. They clutter your hand sometimes.
I will never get over this. I always just think when I'm building a deck, 1 or 2 tech cards to beat the control decks, why not throw them in? You still always beat aggro. It's staggering the difference that it makes.
Quite a good Omega Assembly here.
Yep. It's also quite a good Omega Devastator.
I think it's a better Ziliax, though.
I agree.
Good talk. We'll
Talk
call
to
it
you
a
next
day.
game.
I do think that Jarla has the hand that can, bridge the gap to that later stage, though. It's innocuous, but Hunterace is not exactly pressing the issue at the moment.
Yeah. This is the benefit of Hunterace going for something like this. Is for the moment, Jarla doesn't need to do anything. He can just hero power every turn, remove minions with his weapons when he needs to, and still just be in a great spot.
I would love to see him hold on to this Celiax here.
As would I.
Now, that being said, I can promise you that the thought of either a waggle pick or a shadow step happening on this is always one of those sites where you go, God, I should have killed that Miscreant.
Yes. If it was against Hunterace's primary deck, I would definitely agree with you. In this instance, if they're not shadow stepping Chef Nomi, I think you're pretty happy. Or Togwaggle, Heist Baron Togwaggle as well. Those are obviously Miscreant with the shadow step is one of the most powerful things you can do in Hearthstone at the moment. But Nomi and High Sparrow and Togwaggle are just an entire different level.
It changes the landscapes because Jarla knows those cards.
Exactly.
You want to encourage Hunterace actively to use those Shadow Steps.
You want to message him on Discord and say, go on.
Shadow Step,
Shadow
I dare
Step
you.
it.
Discover a copy of a minion in your opponent's deck. Ooh.
Is that ever good?
Well, so what I'm thinking about for Hunterace is, say that he would, let's just say, for instance, he were to discover Deathwing. What that means is at the end of the game, when he's going for the Chef Nomi nonsense, and his opponent uses Deathwing as the final blow, you have a Deathwing now as your final blow.
That's a really good point. Well, but then by that same metric, would you rather just have a minion in your opponent's deck or a Druid minion? You can just discover any Druid minion. I think I agree with him. I think on average, you're likely to get something that's just neat that you can play on board. Just like an Ironbark Protector, something like that.
Yeah, I think with Hunterace, after watching him play all year long, it's very clear to me that Hunterace favors consistency and predictability in his game plan and flexibility in his game plan more than just giant payoff risks. He will take the risks when they are necessary, but when it's a close call, I have noticed that he tends to favor a call that builds to some sort of consistency. He sees a lot of different game plans and plays, I would say, quite conservatively in comparison to most players.
I would agree with you. I think consistency is the name of the game for Hunterace. The fact that he had such a strong year from being, second place at the first tour stop of the year and then winning the World Championships right at the end. Over the whole year, he was absolutely dominating, as opposed to, for example, Just Saying, who had the 1 or 2 month period where he basically didn't lose a game of Hearthstone. He was invincible for about 2 months. He literally was. I think he won like 35 series in a row with one regame because of double bracket in the middle or something like that. He was basically unbeatable. But over the whole year, Hunterace was undeniably the star.
Yeah, I mean, Saiyan did have the real-life ice block pop at some point in terms of his Hearthstone matches, but it wears off when it gets back to your turn.
It just takes 2 months, apparently. And so here, obviously, on 7 mana, we enter the position where Heist Baron Togwaggle becomes a possibility. Doesn't have the obviously the Shadow Step yet, which if you're going all in on a Lackey and a Togwaggle deck, you sometimes want to be saving. Or I guess a lot of the time you'd be running a Togwaggle Scheme if you're going all in on a Togwaggle deck.
Yeah.
But I think when you have Nomi, again, you have the liberty to just throw it down for a strong.
Yeah, Wondrous One, I think, has proven that it's typically one of the strongest ones that you get from this. Very early on, everyone was jamming double legendary at the same time. It was very flashy. The decks were unrefined, and they weren't capable of handling that much tempo at one time. Since then, Wondrous One has become the linchpin, I would say, of High Spear and Togwaggle, and with a Chef Nomi deck, it absolutely makes sense that you're going for Wondrous One here.
I fully agree. I would have been very surprised to see anything else, especially against Warrior. I think a deck that runs limited removal, you can just fairly happily throw down a huge tempo swing with the double legendary, hope to hit one of the bigger ones. But when they have Brawl, if you throw that down, looking at the rest of his hand, there wasn't much draw. It would probably just peter out over the time. So I think Wondrous Wand, definitely a great pick.
The thing about it now is Hunterace has been going for this chip away game plan where he's been pacing himself, really taking his time, and now Dr. Boom is at the board, which changes the landscape of how efficiently you can just chip away at life total.
Oh, drastically.
How does that change the game plan for Hunterace at this point?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it means he has to shift from traditional rogue game plan, or this, I should say, standard tempo rogue game plan, to the techs in his deck. He is playing the secondary cards of his secondary deck now. He's pretty much all in on doing something disgusting with Togwaggle or Chef Nomi, because even though he is getting in this chip damage very nicely indeed, I think that's about to stop.
So we're going to start seeing the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, he's just going to want to turbo it through his deck, try and find Myras, try and go for the Nomi stuff. But obviously, in the meantime, getting your opponent down to a lower health total, you're not going to pass that up at all. He's kind of got both bases, I think, covered very beautifully here, where he's got the damage in the early game that he's still chipping away at, and he's still got the backup of Chef Nomi, as well as all the value from cards like Hench Clan Burglar.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
Wow, these are some good turns for Jarla, too. Both players just having such good hands for what their deck's trying to produce right now. Like, I actually don't know who's favored from this position.
Yeah, so what are we looking at here? If we see, we can fit Hero Power,
This would be a
Dynamatic,
good
and
time
Weapons
for a
Project for
master
Jarla all in
plan.
the same turn.
I think you'd want to isolate a minion to return
Yes.
that is not strong.
I agree.
And so what I look at there is obviously the Master Swordsmith at that point.
I agree.
That's not a guarantee. And so what's the best course of action for Jarla?
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Also,
Well,
look
can you make that a guarantee? You
Oh,
kind of can.
okay, then.
If you go Hero Power and run them all into the 3/3, Dynamatic and kill off the life room.
Yeah, I mean, the ideal situation is that
Well, this works out good.
you kill everything, which is, I guess, is just what's happening.
Yeah. Yep, this is fine. I'm very happy.
Killing your opponent's entire board, destroying their Waggle Pit, and developing 4 attack of your own is fine. Okay, noted.
I have high standards of these players. I expect the best.
Ooh.
That's interesting. It's not perfectly timed because he's already found, obviously, the Togwaggle, the Lackey. Oh, sorry, the Miscreant already. But maybe he can pick up something with a wave of his wand to go with this shark.
Yeah, not a lot of battle cries and combos, I think, that significantly matter at this point. Zero cost Leroy definitely matters, though.
And a 0-cost Dread Corsair. It's not every day you see that. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, if I don't play Hearthstone for an entire day, I definitely don't see 0-cost Red Corsair. I guess unless I don't watch any Hearthstone that day either.
When was
Yeah,
the
that
last
doesn't
time
happen.
you neither played nor watched Hearthstone for a day?
It has not happened in a long time.
But now, interestingly, while we are having a good old bit of banter here, Hunterace picking up the 0-mana Leroy is actually very important because it gives him the ability to shift over from the Nomi plan to the Leroy Jenkins Shadow Step plan if he wants to. Because being able to go 0-mana Leroy, step it back, 3 mana, 3-mana Leroy, that's 18 burst for 6 mana. That's insane.
Yeah, he's got a lot of heat coming. So for Jarla, the order of operations here, I think, depends on what cost of minions are highest impact and how that affects the rest of your hand. You don't necessarily just rip Omega Devastator here first. I'm sorry, Omega Assembly first, because you can get that at any point.
Okay.
But with a 5 and a 5 in hand, it does appear to me this is your first course of action. Although,
Oh, what, so you want to go Dynamatic Ziliax? Or-
well, I want to figure. I pretty much always want to use this hero power that discovers a mech
I
every
agree.
single time.
Yeah.
And since he doesn't have any cheaper mechs in hand or cheaper utility in hand other than Omega Assembly,
This would be a
the
good
order here I
time
think
for
is
a
always Omega
master
Assembly
plan.
first. It's just
Oh,
it's
okay.
a situation to look at where I
thought
found my
you were
most
saying the other way
complicated
around.
turns are when I have some clunky mechs that are all good, and I hit this hero power where I really want to discover. And Scrap Hound is the perfect one.
You just play it with Ziliax on this turn.
Not necessarily this turn, but it gives you access to that. And that is super important.
I wouldn't hate it on this turn.
I don't hate it on this turn either. This is kind of what I was looking at, though, because Security Rover is a tough one to use. You utilize your mana properly. You're safe from what Hunterace is going to do.
I did find this surprising, I have to be honest, because I was expecting one of the more power plays, but like you said, the other ones are always good, right? Ziliax will never be bad in this matchup.
It's pretty tough. And the Scrap Hound Ziliax can encourage Hunterace to take an aggressive stance and then surprise him with the amount that you can heal from it. And so I think that is a piece of information that Jarla needs to have concealed for a bit. Scheme!
Hunterace's expression there is exactly right. Look at these options. Togwaggle Scheme and Shadow Step are both premium spells to be finding here.
Scheme is...
So Scheme with Nomi is weird.
It's very weird. It is specifically only good in slow controlling matchups
Yes.
where your opponent does not pressure you. They
Right.
fight you on an attrition basis only. It's hard to include in your main deck because of that. But now Hunterace has discovered it in a matchup where Jarla's game plan is to attrition him out.
Obviously, the point is, if you play Nomi and then shuffle them into your deck, well, you would draw a lot of Nomi. They don't activate until you've drawn all of them. So you only want to be shuffling 1, maybe 2 into your deck. But he's going with it anyway. Maybe he doesn't even go with the Chef Nomis. He just shuffles in Leroys. He could shuffle in more Leroys to his deck.
He's just on the verge of...
He's just killing.
Yeah. He's on the verge of just being able to start ending the game. I mean, 0 cost Leroy, 0 cost Eviscerate, and Sinister Strike in hand. 13 burst for 1 single mana.
Eat your heart out, Pyroblast. This is getting exciting. Okay, this is really, really exciting. So that makes it more interesting, though, that he did not pick the Shadow Step, right? Because if he did, we could have seen 4 Leroys in a turn with the 3 Shadow Steps in his deck for 9 mana, right? Because I believe he's got 2 steps left in the deck.
Yes.
So that would have been...
But he's got so much gas.
But that's so much burst with the Eviscerate and the... That's 31 damage, I think, with the Eviscerate and the Sinister Strike as well.
So that's really where my question comes in. Is it the security that you get from Togwaggle Scheme, or do you go for the Throat at that point? And I think that the security of Togwaggle Scheme is superior, and I also just think it's Hunterace's style. Like, does he need that much to win? Probably not. And so why not take a backup plan?
Okay.
Oh, I love that.
I'm not convinced. I definitely see your point of view. And the other thing is that picking another Shadow Step might just be redundant. Yes, it's flashy to do 31 damage in a turn, but I imagine that 25 damage in a turn would be just as good with only the 2 Shadow Steps. As, for the most part here, Jarla's turns are just going to be how to most efficiently remove everything every turn, because whether or not he can remove every turn is not even a question. He can kill everything every turn forever, until the Nomis start coming down.
And I feel like for Jarla, a lot of this game plan now comes down to how does he start closing the window? I think he's starting to recognize that it looks like he's going to fall behind. Innervate's interesting.
Innervate's very interesting. Shadow Madness also...
Lay on Hands is also interesting as well because it takes away the need for Myras a lot of times.
Okay.
But the Myras is just more mana efficient than the Lay on Hands.
Yeah.
Hunterace doesn't need life total.
I think, like, you don't have to play... You don't even have to play Myras at all this game, full stop. You can just carry on drawing cards naturally. I don't think the Lay on Hands is where you want to go because you have so much stuff to spend your mana on.
You also just want time for the scheme to build.
It does activate Lucent Bark, however.
Oh.
Which is something to consider. I still think that's
I
a
would have
bit
taken
too
the Lay on
cringe.
Hands.
I know
No, I
you
would
would
have
have
taken
done.
it.
I know you would have done.
That's way too cool. I love Druid, and Lucent Bark is funny. It's a bad card, but when it works, it works.
Oh, Hunterace chips the 2 here instead of trading off the Dynamatic, and this spells out his game plan pretty easily, right?
Is crazy to me.
Really? Because of a discovered Ziliax?
No, it just feels weird. Like you have sacrificed your Henchclan Burglar.
Wait, it's setting out his game plan very clearly, right?
Yes, and it also, I guess it sacrifices it either way because of the laser hero power.
Your thing dies always. All you're doing here is taking 3 damage to face. There is a 0% chance that your Burglar will
in play
survive.
is really what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I think he is saying, I don't really mind about that.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's necessarily correct, but that's clearly what he's indicating, right? It's much more valuable to him to get the damage through to face.
That's where my curiosity is, though. I feel like that does matter.
I mean, it does matter. It makes a difference to the texture of the game, but I think it's more valuable to him to get the damage through to face when his hand is all this damage. He's just got, what is that, 14, 16 burst already just from hand.
Yep, I think Jarla correctly recognizes he needs to do this.
It's time. That was a scary move. And that is actually another downside of Hunterace's play, pushing the 2 face there, is it was an obvious play. That was clearly saying, my hand is all damage, or for the most part damage, and Jarla is capitalizing on that beautifully. Really good recognition.
Yeah, recall him hanging on to the Vicious Scalehide and Ziliax. Just because it was a great turn,
point.
he didn't use it.
Yeah.
He tried to get more information and bait Hunterace into making a weaker play, and that's exactly what happened.
And now I guess Hunterace has to eviscerate this Scrap Hound, because if he hits into it with the weapon, that's, what, 10 health that is effectively gained from the Scrap Hound and the Ziliax.
Yeah, you don't want him to have 10 health.
I fully agree.
I'm telling you now, if that Lucent Bark Lay on Hands was there, by golly.
Wrong. You are simply wrong, my friend.
No, I think you're wrong. Yeah, I said it.
Well, that's your opinion. Your wrong opinion.
Opinions presented as fact.
So many
Because they are.
options.
You do realize there are some people watching now who are not aware of the spectacle that is That's Admirable, who may really be thinking, you think that Lucent Bark into Lay on Hands was just a premium Hearthstone play.
I don't necessarily think that it wasn't.
Hot dog.
This guy's toast.
Yeah, this seems like a pretty much the play I was looking at. I was thinking maybe he would have gone Waggle Kick to hit face and leave up the 1/1. This does seem a little bit inconsistent with what he went for last time, like completely clearing the board this time, whereas he could have got the Waggle Pick damage to face instead of playing the Harrison.
Well, he went for a move, and that move got checked, and so he has to shift game plans.
Yeah.
That's a really big nod to what we were
point.
talking about in the first series, where we were commending Silvername for simply following through on the game plan. Until he has a very real reason to do something otherwise, he does not.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Hunterace did here. He has a very real reason to shift away from the all-in burst damage game plan.
He does indeed. So, actually, by saving the Myra's Unstable Element until he naturally draws his full deck, does he go Nomi, Togwaggle Scheme, then Myra's to draw all the Nomis?
No way.
That's got to be the plan,
That's super
right?
next level.
I mean, he probably dies before that happens,
but maybe
but
not.
maybe he doesn't. Because then that's just, if he does that...
Further evidence for the lay-on hands. You Togwaggle Scheme, use the lay-on hands to empty the deck, restore the health, and not have to use the Myras. Genius play.
It's so dumb, but I'm still starting to see your point and agree with you.
Because now the hand for Hunterace is becoming quite dead, and the fact that he is sunken below the camera as he leans into focus.
So what are we looking at? If he were to play Myra's on this turn, he would burn 2 cards. Unless he played something else.
Not only that, he's taken 7 damage.
Yes, yeah. But so I'm looking at, because of the fact that he's taking so much damage, does he have to play Myra's now just to go for a Nomi play next turn?
I don't think the Lucid Bark is enough. Like, you cannot swing the board at all with Lucid Bark unless the taunt is successful in blocking the board. So I think
he's going for it now. The pressure's there.
I was just about to say, I
think you have to do this too.
You're just going to have to do it.
Pray that Nomi is not the last card in his deck. There it is, with a Shadow Step. 1 card being overdrawn there. Was that the second Shadow Step, or has he already played it? So
that was the second Shadow Step, I believe.
think it was.
So, prep,
but either way,
cut
this
the
is what he
damage.
has to work with.
You cut as much damage as possible.
Yep.
Here, Hunterace's position here.
He's very, very unhappy.
Whoa. So he's moving in. He says Nomi is not enough to generate the tempo and win from this position.
So how much damage does he have? He has Leroy for 6, 10 with the Waggle Pick, 16, 22. He has exactly 22.
And Jarla can't gain HP!
He has lethal!
Whoa! I'm going to count again because I don't know if...
Leroy is 0 mana.
He's got 3 Leroys to play next turn.
18. The Waggle Pick as well.
Oh my god.
Exact lethal! That is staggering. He's actually just a god.
We have not seen a triple Leroy turn in a long time. The card used to be 4 mana, and it was common. It now is 5 mana, and it's very difficult to do. Oh, wow.
I am in shock.
We just missed that. That's crazy.
And he set it up perfectly.
Unbelievable setup here for Hunterace.
And this was a bold move here from him. He completely gave up on the Nomi plan because he was just taking too much damage. He realized that plan was just not going to get there, and he goes with the Leroy Lethal. Unbelievable play to level this series up.
Wow. It's situations like that.
I executed it absolutely gorgeously. And now we are going into game number 3. Once again, it is the secondary deck for Hunterace with Hench Clan Burglars, Harrison Jones, Heist Baron Togwaggle, and Chef Nomi put in to counteract the greed and removal from the warrior. And then for Jarla.
If I saw correctly, Jarla 4-kept?
Did he 4-keep?
It looked to me like he... I didn't see the cards fly out of hand and rejoin.
I was busy beautifully explaining the concepts of specialist format in this new system.
I'm sorry. It's very rare that you see a 4-keep. And that is just such a good hand.
It's a great hand. I'll give you that.
Jarla, I think, has a pretty massive edge in this game. It's just, his opening hand is gas. He's going to pressure Hunterace, and he has disruption to everything.
Oh, but Look at this from Hunterace. He's got
Yeah, that's a great...
the juice.
That is a great start. And one of
you
the
got-
things I'm looking at is if the prep raiding party to Miscreant happens, it means the Waggle pick comes down after Jarla coins a militia commander here. So Harrison Jones won't connect
So many
on the Waggle pick.
options.
Okay.
It's a very weird looking sequence, but
Yeah. And Jarla will know that. He may not even bother going for the coin militia commander. He could just go for Acolyte of Pain. Playing Acolyte against a one-attack minion.
I think the thing I'm looking at is, do you want the Waggle pick to hit a Miscreant? And to me, the answer is ultimately no.
To bounce back and miss.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. No, you would not like that because they are unlikely to be able to hit it on one of the better minions of Nomi or Togwag.
Choose soon.
Okay, well, Miscreant changes a lot of things. So ignore when I said that I thought Jarla was massively favored. I now think it is close.
And we got to remember as well, this is not like the games that you may see on ladder, where a lot of the time the match is decided fairly early on for the warrior. If they are able to stabilize early on, barring any Myra nonsense that happens later on, it's over pretty quickly. This game, if it's looking particularly one way or the other, it can change on a dime.
And that's largely due to the tertiary deck. I'm sorry, the secondary deck from Hunterace in this one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, the late game potential that comes from both High Sparrow and Togwaggle and Chef Nomi is really difficult to surmount. But Jarla has given himself the absolute best possible chance of doing so with the Spell Zerker, with the Deathwing in there.
Now, you think about the overall game plan for Hunterace, it's still initially damage. It's just got a much stronger backup plan than it has before. Where in game number 1, we saw Hunterace have the backup plan of, hope I draw the right cards.
Yeah.
Instead, having the backup plan of Chef Nomis with Shadow Steps to just generate 3 consecutive boards of 6/6 minions.
But then the problem becomes Jarla has 4 ways of dealing with a board full of Nomis, with obviously 2 Brawls, Spell Zerker plus the Warpath and the Deathwing to follow things up. So even if he uses a Brawl along the way to clear things up, Jarla still hypothetically has all the resources he needs to deal with 3 Chef Nomis. And that's obviously assuming that Hunterace, first of all, finds the Myra's unstable element. Second of all, doesn't overdraw the Myra, the Chef Nomi when he plays it. And then third of all, doesn't use the Shadow Steps on other minions along the way beforehand. A lot has to go wrong for there to be 3 Nomis played.
Jarla debating between a Coin Harrison and a Militia Commander here. Or perhaps even a Weapons Project and an Armor Up.
I mean, you know, I'm expecting a Coin Harrison to come down here. The Weapons Project really doesn't line up all too well against the minions on board. But he thinks saving the coin is more important. Or he's just going to hit the 50-50.
Well, I think going for a 50-50 here is, you know, that's happening almost any way you slice it.
Yeah.
The thing to me is that Jarla gets to utilize a Weapons Project here, start chipping away on board, and then have a little bit of tempo development to back up a Dynomatic on 5 here. And I think Coin is a resource that I see players in Warrior use very liberally. At times you're forced to do that, but I think a lot of times you don't have to do that. And when you are able to save Coin instead, it unlocks a wealth of plays as you move forward. You know, Warriors, the cards are fairly clunky. So being able to play 2 in one turn instead of just being able to play a single more powerful card now, I think is often worth the trade-off of having a weaker turn now.
I see your reasoning.
Also, the Weapons Project sets up a Harrison to land on 2 charges rather than just 1.
Also a good point. Okay, I'm convinced.
Also nabbed a Deadly Poison from this if you want to use Harrison here.
Yeah, this just worked out very beautifully indeed with, how many is this, 9 cards in hand? Would have to expend the coin as well if he wants to, but I think when you're drawing this many cards, you'd be pretty happy.
The other issue with the Harrison this turn is that Hunterace has just, you know, added a 4/3 to board. So even on your way back, you know, trying to fight for board, Hunterace is starting to pressure you quite a bit in the meantime. So benefits and cons to both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
I certainly think having a Harrison in play last turn would have worked out better for him this turn. So the thing to keep my eye on is how much use can Jarla get out of that coin later on.
And at the moment, it's looking like it's going to be either coin double 4-drop on turn 7 or coin 5-drop 4-drop on turn 9. both of which are pretty powerful plays to be going for. Like if we could see Omega Devastator plus Ziliax come down internally.
Yeah, I still think here Jarla is lined up for a pretty good Dynamatic. I think I'd still like to see that come down.
I mean, you can pretty much guarantee that it will clear off the Dreadcores there, but other than that, I think I'd probably prefer saving it, because this just does a similar job anyway.
This sets up for Dynamatics and following turns,
Yeah.
too. You know, what's the key turn to land Dynamatic, I think is really the objective for Jarla right now. I look at this and I go, when's that going to happen? Heavy Metal, interestingly, creates a 6-drop for Hunterace right now.
Huh, because of the weapons project.
Yeah.
I hadn't even clocked that he was picking that. I've been so focused on Jarla's turns, trying to remove turn after turn. So I guess because it could get better, because you could get another weapons projected, and then you get a 10-drop.
That'd be going deep.
I don't know. Like, it's greedy. Okay, so can he do anything better on this turn, I guess is the question. The answer to which is...
Yes.
Yes, doing lackey stuff is more powerful immediately than heavy metal would be as a random 6-drop. But it then becomes what would be better later. How do these minions develop into the late games as it goes on?
I like this play for 2 reasons. Number 1, you have Heavy Metal to back up if Jarla can respond to this effectively. Number 2, this is prompting Jarla to respond to this very effectively. The ways that you respond effectively right now are both Brawl and Warpath.
Yeah, but...
So I think if you can prompt a Brawl or a Warpath and then back that up with Heavy Metal or with a Lackey and High Spear and Togwaggle, you're in good shape.
I don't know if I do like this actually quite so much, because when you're playing around Warpath, you want to have some small minions and some big minions, right? Because if you just have big minions, they're either going to Shield Slam or Brawl to get rid of them. If you just have small minions, Warpath just clears very easily. Whereas if he'd gone with a Heavy Metal while he had those smaller minions in play, the Warpath wouldn't have killed off everything. Brawl would have been overkill. Shield Slam would have left some stuff in play.
Wow, Jarla going to continue to take it slow here.
I mean, he doesn't have the Warpath, which is what Hunterace was clearly hoping he didn't have, and it played out for him very nicely indeed. Even if the Warpath would have been dreadful for him.
Yeah, that weapons project ended up being very costly for Jarla because of the deadly poison from Hunterace. And we're looking at 12 damage that's provided now.
He never plays the second one, does he? I mean, that would be crazy.
I think you can justify playing it because you're setting up for a Harrison Jones, but I think you need to keep hitting that armor button and figuring out a way to turn this board around.
I mean, I want him to do it just so I can see the Heavy Metal summon a big minion.
And if you're not going to set up for the Harrison Jones, again, you need to find something that works. So I think coining this Acolyte of Pain makes sense. I mean, going back in hindsight, that coin did not pay off.
I guess so. And I think that does look like it's just going to be lethal now for Hunterace available.
10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then the 2 in hand from the Lackey.
So that play from Hunterace on the previous turn was literally just saying, if you don't have Warpath here, I will win the game. And that's exactly what happened. And he pulled it out the bag. Amazing.
Just simple.
I was expecting this to go through to the end. Why are they putting a High Spear and Togwaggle